That worked. Okay. Yes. Yeah, we're live.
Hold on, I gotta click back into our window. Okay. DFS. Hear me now? Is that better? I changed the microphone input, hoping that did something. Anything? Yes? No? Okay, you can hear me slightly. That's progress. Okay. I'm going to turn it up a little more. How about now? We good? No more crazy noises? Yeah, so apparently it was just taking the audio directly from the front of my laptop, which is obviously terrible. Jayhawk, say something. I want to make sure we can hear you too. Jayhawk? Jayhawk, I don't know if your audio's registering now.
Yeah, can you hear me, Nick?
Now I can. Yeah. Okay, guys, we're almost there. Thank you to everyone who's in chat because you are all effectively producers now, and you can all put that on your resumes.
My audio?
I think we're good.
Almost.
I think we're good. Just want one more confirmation. Jose, can you hear Jayhawk now? Thank you. Thanks again, everyone. This is absolutely insane. But thank
Okay.
you. Appreciate it.
You sound better now, Nick. I think we're
good. All right, so let's get started here, guys. 4 game slate tonight. Nick Marro DFS here again to help you break down the slate on both DraftKings and FanDuel. I am joined here by Jayhawk. We're back for another NBA season. Definitely pumped to be here. And yeah, I think we finally got the audio figured out. So first hurdles out of the way. Everything else should be smooth from here. But yeah, we have four games to talk about tonight. One opening the slate that might not be so competitive. I'm thinking we can go game by game, team by team pretty quickly though, with only four games, even with the late start, even with the technical difficulties. So let's do just that. We got the Celtics at the Wizards, 232 point total here. I think last I checked around a 14-point spread. We did just get word that Sam Hauser is going to be out for Boston. Obviously, not the biggest piece of news. He's not option 1 through 5 on that team, but he does get considerable minutes coming off the bench. We have seen him historically get run in blowouts as well. So just off those two facts alone, there is going to be some value opening up. Peyton Pritchard looks good here, starting to project as one of the more popular plays on the slate. No surprise there. The beat reporter who reported Hauser being out said maybe we'd get some Jordan Walsh tonight. I know personally I'm not going to get there. But yeah, I think it's once again the Boston starting five. We saw they're very capable of blowing teams out. Almost set a record for threes in a game in their opener. But yeah, man, how are you handling the Celtics here? I think it's definitely a situation worth talking about. Some of the better pay ups on the slate in terms of point per dollar upside, but this might not be a competitive game.
Yeah, man. Obviously Boston's coming off that insane shooting performance. Their first game. I think they look awesome here, man. Starting out with Tatum, I think, he's the cash he spend up here at 9,300 on DraftKings, 10,000 on FanDuel. I think he looks awesome. And then the two other guys, Pritchard and White, I think both these guys look really good as well at the guard position. So I think you said it. Boston looks really good here as a whole. Definitely a team we want to target.
Yep. I am seeing some comments in the chat that I was still super quiet. I just tried to raise my volume. I have the right input now. I'm still trying to adjust. Let me know if that's any better, guys. Doing all we can. Hopefully, we get this stuff fired up soon. But yeah, man. Again, I mean, these guys can get there in 3 quarters. We've seen it time and time again. Tatum's the chalk. I was on opening night with Chuck, and we talked about how Brown was probably a good pivot, bit of a discount. Obviously, not going to hit the same ceiling as Tatum on most nights, but on a short slate like this, there is some potential leverage there. If you're not playing Tatum, it does make sense to play some Brown. Love Derek White. He looks tremendously locked in right now. Love what he's been saying going into the season, knowing he's kind of elevated, knowing that defenses are actually going to pay attention to him now. But yeah, he seems to have stepped up his game. We'll move on to Washington in a minute. I see we are getting some questions around. Um, just a second. Audio's a little off again. Um, this is brutal. Just a second, guys. Let me see if I can fix it.
Yeah, you guys bear with us. Work in progress here.
Yeah, we're doing what we can. I don't know if it's the mic. Yeah, guys, let us know if that's any better or worse. Try to stop the volume from maxing, but it's making me quieter, it seems. So again, work in progress here. Let me check settings one more time. Um, but yeah, as I do that, man, I guess are you getting to a ton of pressure? Do you think the field's right to be as bullish on him as they are? And are you interested in any of these like secondary guys like Walsh, Tillman, Cornette? As I try to continue to fix my audio. You there? Now I can't hear you, man. I don't know if you're able to hear me.
I think you cut out, Nick. Can you hear me?
You're back now. You're back now. Can you hear me?
Okay. Sorry, I you cut out for a second there.
All right. No, yeah, I was just saying as I was trying to adjust the audio, is there any interest in Walsh, Tillman, Cornette, these kind of secondary pieces that may get extra run in the blowout?
You said Washington. Sorry, you cut out again. You said Washington, right?
Yeah, or no, I'm Walsh. I'm asking if you're interested in these like
Oh, Walsh.
secondary
Sorry.
pieces. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we kind of talked about it pre-stream. I'm not too interested in guys like Walsh down here. We have enough decent plays here as value and in the mid tier. I probably won't get any Walsh myself.
Okay. Um, yeah, so let's move on to Washington now. Again, I think generally speaking, we like what we're getting out of Boston, but there is obviously some blowout risk there. Moving over to the Wizards now, they drafted Sar. He's probably going to be heavily involved here. They pulled Joe Valen. Kuzma Poole, obviously kind of 1A and 1B in this offense. Not a great matchup at all against Boston, but they do have some upside. It is a limited slate. I could see maybe getting there as a means to be contrarian. But yeah, I think the player a lot of people are asking about right now is Carlton Carrington. He's so cheap. The model doesn't seem to love him. We only have him for, let's see here, 19 minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if he played a little bit more, though, just because Brogdon's still out. Poole obviously going to get minutes at point guard. Not always running the offense, though. But I guess what's your take on Carlton Carrington? Because I don't know. I think it really depends on the minutes. But if this game were to blow out, he's probably someone who benefits.
Yeah, so Carrington's kind of been the guy. I've been up in the air all day. I think he probably looks like the best overall play here from Washington. You mentioned it. If this game gets out of hand, he probably still gets a bunch of blowout run. And he's 3K, man. So at 3K, even if we get like 15 to 20 DraftKings points, that could cut it at his price. So I think he looks solid. If I'm building one lineup, I probably wouldn't get to him. But if you're building 150, 20 max, I think he looks fine to mix in for
Yeah,
Washington here.
yeah, I'm with you. I do think.
But do you like him?
What's that?
I said, do you like him?
Yeah, I mean, I do just because we're kind of struggling to find value. I mean, I'd rather play him than like a Walsh or some of these OKC secondary pieces where we know they're going to have a really wide range of outcomes. The other guy, I guess we got to bring up another rookie is Alexandre Sarr. Much more popular on FanDuel than he is on DK. I'm not really surprised by that. He's 1K cheaper with power forward eligibility. We're projecting him around 28 minutes. I think we could see that here. Obviously, not a great matchup defensively. But where you at on Sar? I mean, on DK, he definitely feels overpriced, but getting him at 1% kind of tempting. Probably capable of getting rebounds, maybe a few stocks, in addition to the points he might score here. So I don't know. What's your take on Sar? I think I'm gonna play a decent amount on FanDuel.
Yeah, definitely, intriguing to see that ownership disparity between DraftKings and FanDuel. I think at 1% he is too low, even for 1,000 more. This is the guy that can fill up the stat sheet with blocks, steals, and just overall defensive presence. So I do like him at that 1%. 6K is a steep price tag, but I'm definitely gonna be fine taking stabs there. Especially, man, center is not the best position tonight. So at 1%, I'm definitely fine taking stabs there, even in this tough matchup.
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, these guys aren't the main kind of points of emphasis for this offense. Like Kuzma and Poole are probably going to see the higher usage rates, but just knowing the matchup, knowing the high blowout risk we're getting here, I actually do feel more comfortable kind of getting to some of these secondary pieces for Washington. Um, One last question on Washington before we move on. What's your take on Joval here? I know with the Pelicans, the minutes were always super frustrating. Now that he's in Washington, I mean, he's got Marvin Bagley behind him. That depth chart's pretty thin, though. Um, so, yeah, are you getting to Joval tonight? Obviously, not a great matchup, but maybe he's going to start playing more minutes than we were used to with him in New Orleans.
Yeah, I think Joval is definitely an interesting talking point here. I wasn't getting too much of him, but at 6,800, 6,900, respectively on both sides, I think he's fine to get to. I'm not too high on him tonight, but I definitely get the intrigue there. He does have a big ceiling. We've seen it before, but once again, the matchup isn't the best here against Boston. So
Yep. So yeah, I think we can move on. Just kind of to sum up that first game as we're dealing with the technical difficulties. Boston looks great. Obviously some blowout risk. The starter should be able to get there in 3 quarters though. And with Hauser out, keep an eye on the starting lineup. But Pritchard's probably going to be more relevant than usual, even coming off the bench. Guys like Cornette could see extra minutes. Walsh is a name that we see Porter's bringing up, but not really a guy we're ever too interested in DFS. So kind of business as usual for Boston, but getting to more Pritchard, just know that he is going to be super popular here. Moving into the next game now,
Yeah.
we have 7:30 Eastern. Spurs taking on the Mavericks. Mavericks favored here, 228-point total. Let's start with the Spurs on the road because this is a team that's changed a lot, right? Obviously, bringing in Chris Paul, they got that veteran presence now. What are his minutes going to look like on a night-to-night basis? Sochan probably done playing point guard. That was a failed experiment. Yeah, I still like him as a player, but obviously probably not as much upside without facilitating. Julian Champagne, I saw it come up in chat. Obviously, very popular value play tonight. Wide range of outcomes for him. But we have him at 25, 26 minutes. I think he is one of the better value plays if that were to hold. Another guy that no one's ever going to want to talk about is Harrison Barnes, probably going to eat into some of those Keldon Johnson minutes. I don't know what it is with Pop and Johnson. He seems to like him, but never wants to play him 30 minutes a night. Harrison Barnes is a guy we know who can play 35 plus. I don't know that we can project that for him here. But yeah, I mean, you're getting Barnes at a discount, probably going to be the starter. But he will be alongside Wemby, who's definitely going to dominate the usage with that first unit. Me personally, I'm fine getting to Wemby. It's just he's priced so similarly to Jokic. I'm not getting there all that often. I do like Sochan kind of as a value piece, more so on DK. But then Champagne on both sites. I mean, a guy I'd be mixing in. I don't want my night to depend on him, but definitely a value piece I think who's worth rotating in. And then Barnes, as gross as it is, kind of a boom bust mid range play. But I guess just kind of give your overall take on the Spurs. I mean, ownership pretty flat. Sochan very popular on DK. Wemby pretty popular on FanDuel, but you are getting the power forward eligibility over there.
Yeah, let's talk about Wemby first. Obviously, he put on 20 pounds this summer. He is going to be even better than he was the year before, if you can believe that. But yeah, 10,700 on DraftKings. I think he looks fine as a contrarian spend up here. He obviously has a huge ceiling every slate. So I think Wemby at 10,700 looks like a fine contrarian play. And then you mentioned it, the chalk play on DraftKings is going to be Jeremy Sochan or Sohan from San Antonio here. I'm gonna get a ton of Sohan. It's more power forward isn't great tonight. So sign me up for Sohan on DraftKings. Probably not on FanDuel, but yeah, love him on DraftKings. And then yeah, you mentioned Champagne. I think he's fine as value. The one thing I wanted to note with him is if his three-pointer is not going in, he's not the same play. So really banking on him to make those threes. I think he's fine. Solid value. And then one more name. I did want to throw out there Stephon Castle. Probably won't play him tonight, but this is the guy that is a good DFS play when these other guards are out. So yeah, probably won't play him tonight, but that's definitely a name we should monitor moving forward in the season,
Yeah, man, that's a good
in my
shout, and
opinion.
I agree. I don't really know that it's a play for tonight, but Chris Paul in his later years definitely a guy who's probably going to get some rest nights this season. So Castle, a guy to kind of keep an eye on moving forward. On the other side of this one, we have Dallas. Obviously, it is the Luca and Kyrie show. Luca, pretty popular. Projected to play 35 minutes, but super expensive, priced up there with Wemby, with Jokic, 11-1 on DK, 11-9 on FanDuel. Kyrie, even more popular, likely because of the price, but we've seen he's really the 1A, 1B in this offense. I mean, he's number two. I won't call him 1B necessarily, but we know he can produce at a super high level. Decent matchup for guards here. Pretty interested to see what this defense is going to look like with Paul in there. Obviously, Wembanyama kind of evolving into one of the better defensive players in the league. So a matchup we typically kind of think is super favorable may not be as the season wears on, but as they start to gel, I'm totally fine going here. Other pieces from this game, I think we have to talk about PJ Washington, a little bit more expensive, but I think kind of similar to Champagne, a guy who has a very wide range of outcomes. If you're looking for value at center tonight, Derek Lively, someone who's going to be considered as well. And then we have to talk about Clay um, out of Golden State here with Dallas. I think coming off the bench, don't quote me on that. Probably better form than he does, though. Not going to see a ton of usage next to Luca and Kyrie. But another guy, if he can get hot from three and he's not going to be popular, could probably be someone you want to have in your lineups tonight. For me personally, I've been cold on Clay the past few seasons. I'm going to have trouble getting there unless he really shows that he's going to be putting up numbers that justifies his 5,900 price tag on both sites. As his price comes down, I think I'll have some interest, but right now, no, no for me. I think Kyrie's kind of the no-brainer here. Gonna mix in some Luca where I can, but I guess what's your overall take on this Dallas squad right now?
Yeah, man, I'm right there with you. I think Kyrie point per dollar looks fantastic here at 7,500. I get he's 35%. I think he should be more chalk than that. I think this is kind of a misprice from DraftKings here at that price tag. I will note, Luka Doncic, you mentioned it, is the obviously the alpha here in Dallas. I think that ownership is a little bit too low for his ceiling upside. We obviously know Luka can break any slate at any given time. So just like 1B, I think we need to get a decent amount of exposure in tournaments to Luka just because he has that, huge ceiling every slate. So definitely want to be a little bit overweight to Luka as well. In addition to Kyrie, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think in lineups you don't have Kyrie. He's kind of a core play for me. I do want to get Luca because there is obviously some direct leverage there. But yeah, I mean, this is a very interesting match. I'm going to be curious to see what this defense looks like for San Antonio. But yeah, as far as secondary options go, I mean, I'm not all that excited to get to PJ Washington, Lively, or certainly Clay. So it really is just kind of the two main point guards for me. Anything else on Dallas for you before we move on?
No, man, right there with you. Looks like PJ's going to be pretty chalky tonight around the industry. I don't, I get it. It's a good matchup here against San Antonio. I'm not huge on him. I'll probably be around the field here. I don't like Gafford. I don't like Lively as chalk. So probably just PJ, and I'll probably match the field
Yeah, I'm with you,
on
man.
my
I
Sunday.
mean, I don't know. He could go off, and he's too cheap for his upside, but his floor is really, really low. So, I don't know. Guy you mix in if you're playing a bunch of lineups. Certainly not someone you probably want to have in your cash builds or single entry all that aggressively, even though he is popular. All right, so I did just
Yeah.
want to kind of address chat real quick before we move on to the next game. Like bringing up Horford with Porzingis out. I mean, certainly he's definitely going to benefit. Horford's not going to see extra minutes necessarily though with Porzingis out, so keep that in mind. And there are times where he's coming off the bench with Porzingis out, which means less minutes next to both um, Brown and Tatum. So his usage is kind of pretty much where it's going to be. The minutes are pretty much where it's going to be. It is a great matchup, though. So I'm fine getting to Horford. I just wouldn't weigh too heavily the fact that Porzingis is out when you're getting to him. I think he is too cheap. I like that he has power forward eligibility on FanDuel. So he's a good play for sure. But just don't put too much into that Porzingis stuff because, again, I mean, higher usage rate off the bench. The minutes aren't really going to climb on a vet like that, regardless. So yeah, good shout, but maybe proceed with some caution. How are you feeling about Horford before we move on to this next game here?
Yeah, I think you mentioned that Horford's solid. He's probably going to play his typical minutes. Washington this year, I think they should be pretty solid matchup. I wouldn't say like an outstanding matchup with Joe Val there, but I think he looks very solid. I will know before we move on, our model loves Horford here, coming in at a 14.7 DK value and a 7.6 OF index. Definitely something to account for there. I'm definitely going to get more exposure now. I think with the model liking him, I'm definitely intrigued and want to get a little bit over the field there,
Yeah,
in my
I mean,
opinion.
I'm kind of surprised that he's not more popular, and I got that mixed up actually. I thought he'd have power forward eligibility on FanDuel. He doesn't. He does on DK where he's cheaper. So really, really good play over on DK. Good shout there, man. But let's move on to this next game here. OKC Thunder at the Denver Nuggets. These last two games both lock at 10 p.m. So if you are doing any late swap or pivoting, you definitely have options from both these spots. So keep that in mind. But let's start with OKC. So Josh Giddey is out. Alex Caruso is in. Their front court's pretty thin right now. They did bring in Hartenstein, but he's going to be out for a little while. Jalen Williams with an eye is out as well. Not a huge fantasy producer, but someone who does take up minutes there in the front court. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of business as usual here. Caruso, very popular on both sites. I'd proceed with some caution on that. Not that there's a ton of great values in that price range, unfortunately, but seeing him at 40-ish% on both sites definitely gives me some pause. A guy who can put up stats, but not always reliant on usage, not always going to see numbers night to night, even though he is a great real life NBA player. Most of that does come on defense. Um, But yeah, love Jalen Williams. I think him on DK is kind of a core play for me, similar to Kyrie. Just think he's mispriced. Uh, don't love the matchup, obviously, against Joker for Holmgren, but at the same time, I think his minutes are more secure. We saw a lot last season. Some of this was working back from injury, just inconsistent minutes out of him, even when he was playing well. Super frustrating at times. But I think, again, with Hartenstein out and the other Jalen Williams out, I think he's probably safe to play 32 to 36 here. Lou Dort may be a pivot to Caruso, but almost the same situation, but worse in that he has an upside. He has a ceiling for his price, but it's rare that we see it. So yeah, man, I do like SGA here. I think the FanDuel price is pretty prohibitive at 11.3, but at 9.9 over on DK, I can see getting to him sub 20%. Wiggins getting some love as well. A little bit surprised by that one. We only have him for 18 minutes. Not a ton of value on the slate though, so I get it. But for me, it's Jalen Williams on both sides, SGA on DK, and then I think Holmgren on both sides. Trying to come in under Arden Caruso, but let me know if I'm making a mistake doing so.
Yeah, pretty much aligned with you here. I think Jalen Williams looks like my favorite play here. Point per dollar. Love him here at 7K. Denver, I think with his first game back, I know they're at home, but I think Jalen should be able to, get a shot rolling here, particularly from the 3-point line. So like Jalen a lot here in tournaments. And then you mentioned Caruso. I think he's definitely a play to talk about here. 40%, kind of like quickly last night. 40% does seem pretty hefty for, a guy we don't he's gonna have a safe role in the team, but for fantasy purposes, I don't know if he's worth 40%. I think he's solid, not gonna go crazy with it, in my opinion. But obviously with no what's his face, the center,
Jalen
why
or
am I blanking
Hardenstein?
on him? You just Yeah, Hardenstein. With no Hardenstein, I think he should get, safety in minutes here. So, um, yeah, I think Caruso looks pretty solid here, 4,000. And then you mentioned Chet. I know he's sub 15%. I don't love the matchup here. I probably won't be getting very much Chet myself.
Right. Um, all right, man. Yeah. So looking over chat right now, we're getting a lot of kind of either or type questions. Once we get through the rest of these games, guys, I'll be able to kind of give you that update. Um, But yeah, let's move over to Denver now. First question we're getting is about Russ. Like, what do we think of Russ? What's his role going to look like off the bench? How many minutes is he going to play? We have him for 23. And then we got a question from Jose seeing if Christian Braun's going to be starting. I think he will be. I think with KCP now in Orlando, Braun's going to kind of fill into that role. We're going to see Murray, Brown, Porter, Gordon, Jokic as the starters. Russ likely coming off the bench with Strother, Watson, etc. But yeah, man. I mean, Joker's Joker. Obviously, one of the best plays on the slate where you can afford him. Pretty tough to get to though. Murray, fine. Guards just loaded tonight. I think there's more egregiously priced guards, but he always has upside. But yeah, I don't know. I guess my favorite play here is Jokic. I don't think I'm going to get to him much over the field though, just because of where he's priced. Would love to, but at the same time, I mean, I feel like I'm under Denver compared to the field tonight. I don't know if that's a good thing. But what are your overall takes here on the Nuggets? And let me know where you're at on Russ in particular.
Yeah, so I like the Russ call out. He should be the pretty much the clear cut six man for them this year. I think he looks solid here, 16%. He is the same price as Malik Monk here on DraftKings. Definitely intriguing. We'll talk about Monk later. Definitely intriguing to kind of think about who we want to play there. I think for me, I'll lean Russ here. I think he's going to be really good for fantasy this year, man. So I do really like Westbrook here at 16%, 5K on DraftKings. And then let's talk about, I know you kind of briefly mentioned them, but Jokic and Murray, I think both are really solid. I do lean Murray a little bit. I think 7,300 is too cheap for him on DraftKings. He's one of the guys I'm trying to get overweight on this slate at card. So love Jamal. I think Jokic is solid as well, per usual at 11K. And then two more names. Someone mentioned Brown. I'm like a huge Brown advocate. I've been huge on him
Yeah,
since
you
KU.
were
He
early
is
on him.
starting this year, at least for now.
Yeah.
Yeah. He should be starting here for Denver. And then Strother is another name. I don't know if he's going to crush tonight, but he's going to be vital for this Denver team. Obviously, with no KCP, no Bruce Brown once again this year. So I think he's sneaky play as well tonight and moving forward at 32.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. I do like Murray on DK. I mean, he's going to draw a lot of Dort. I don't want to I don't know, weigh these kind of one-on-one matchups, though. Not really something we should be doing. But yeah, interested to see kind of what Brown's usage looks like with the starting unit. It's interesting too. I mean, we both talk about Denver. Neither of us really bring up Porter or Gordon. I mean, they have a wide range of outcomes. They have very high ceilings. It's rare that we get them, but the field seems the same way. So if you're kind of desperate to get different, you find that you're not getting to Murray or Jokic much. I think both those guys are fine to kind of mix in. Again, neither are really priorities, but they do seem kind of lower owned than maybe they should be here. Um, did my volume go down again? I mean, I could raise it a bit. Hopefully, this doesn't mess it up. All right, guys. Let's see if we could address any of these questions. Caruso, Conley, or Westbrook? I mean, I guess Westbrook in tournaments. It sounds like that's where you're at, right?
Yeah, I think was it a like 1v1v1 question?
Yeah, it was three options. I mean, Conley, low floor, Caruso, who's chalk. Probably the safest. In
Yeah.
cash games, I'd go Caruso,
Yeah.
but Russ in tournaments for sure.
Yeah. I would rank them in for cash games. Caruso, Westbrook, and then Conley. Yeah, I agree.
Yep, I agree. All right, so we got a few other questions, but they kind of tie into some of these uh, options we have in this last game. Just a second. All right, we get the Timberwolves at the Kings. We've actually seen the Timberwolves already. Look pretty good opening night against the Lakers. Obviously, didn't quite get it done, but Ant looks to be in midseason form. Rudy looks fine. I mean, AD did have his moments, but we're not too concerned about defense against AD tonight, obviously. Mike Conley, floor game. He's dirt cheap. DiVincenzo off the bench. Took a little while to get going. He, for me, might be my favorite player for Minnesota tonight. I know he's coming off the bench. He was cold kind of to start that game, though, but he did get going. It seems he kind of found his stroke. He's going to be relied on for scoring off the bench, and I like that for him. You don't really have to worry about sharing the usage with the likes of Randall or Edwards as much. Obviously, they're going to share the floor plenty. But DiVincenzo might be my favorite Timberwolf here tonight. Everyone knows I'm a huge Nas Reed guy. Was capped at exactly 26 minutes. We have him for 25 tonight. He had a terrible first stint, like absolutely terrible. I think he was in single digits at halftime. Did start to come alive. Wouldn't be shocked to see those minutes kind of tick up pushing 30. But I think for now, we have to kind of be conservative and expect around 26. His ownership is down, though. The price did not come up. It is a better matchup, not dealing with the Lakers' front court defense. So I'm back on Naz Reid here. I know the minutes are limited. I know he kind of let us down for the most part, but this is the type of play I want to zig when the field zags. Again, super chalky the other night. No one playing him tonight. Not much has changed, except he had a bad performance. So I'm getting to Nas, getting to a lot of Dante. Obviously, love to mix in Ant where I can, but what's your take on the Timberwolves here?
Yeah, man. I was right there with you with Nas last night. I played a crap ton of Nas on DraftKings. And you mentioned him tonight. I think he's a fantastic pivot to a chalky PJ Washington and even a chalky Caruso, man. At 5,100, if everyone's going to play those guys, love getting to Nas here. I think this game in general should nuke for fantasy purposes. So love Nas, love that call. Dante, I like the call. I never can get this dude right, man. Played him last night, didn't do much. It is another good matchup, so I'm totally fine getting there in tournaments as well. Yeah, I think overall this Minnesota team looks really good in tournaments. I will say the two guys I will not play are Randall and Conley. I can't play Randall this year, man. He just I don't know if it's the fit on this team, whatever it is. I just can't play him for DFS. You have a different stand on Randall. He's gonna be chalky and FanDuel. I can't play him personally, but what's
Yeah,
your
I
take?
mean, I don't know if the confidence is there with him. Not only is it a new team, kind of coming off injury, the minutes are there though. But yeah, I mean, it's really a price thing. Like 7,800 on DK, even at low ownership. I'm not getting there much, but he's kind of priced in the same range as like Aaron Gordon, excuse me, and PJ. Yawning over on FanDuel. So I think there where he's 7,300, a little bit lower owned than I'd expect him to be. I mean, he did kind of push 30 fantasy points, which obviously isn't value, but he's in the ballpark. I mean, if things fall a little bit better for him that game, tough matchup, I think he could shake out better. I'm not a big Julius Randle guy in terms of winning basketball games, but I think in games where Edwards doesn't necessarily have it, which you're going to be fewer and further between as he continues to advance in his career. I don't mind getting to some Randall. So for me, he's fine. It's more of a FanDuel thing though, and most of my volume is on FanDuel. But I'm with you in that, like, I'm not excited to play this guy. Like, there's nights he just doesn't show up. I mean, he's not always hustling on the floor. Just things you don't love to see. Transitioning though into Jaden McDaniels, Courtney Parker here, bringing him up. Pretty interesting play. I did mention on opening night, I thought he'd be shooting more this year. They kind of need him as a spacer a little bit more than they did with Cat in the lineup. DiVincenzo not starting. I mean, they do need guys to kind of stretch out the floor. He is one of them who's going to do that. Something you can rely on? No, not necessarily. But he is a 3 and D guy who probably takes a few more threes this year. Similar to Champagne, I mean, similar to some of these other value plays we're mentioning, he's someone I'd mix in, only because he's low owned. Don't love the price necessarily. I do think he's risky, but I'm fine getting to more McDaniels this year than I was last year. Again, just because I think the role changes a little bit. But yeah, any hot takes on McDaniels? Obviously, I'd rather get to Nas Reed if I can find the extra money, but um, I don't know. Not the type of player I usually play, defensive first guy, but I do think he has to shoot more this year. You there?
Nick, yeah, sorry, you cut out again. Did you ask about Jaden?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, hold up. Yeah, you cut out.
No, you're
Um,
good. I, I,
okay,
I
yeah.
don't know if it's mine or your end, but yeah, I was just asking about McDaniels. I mean, I'm fine mixing him in.
Can you hear me, Nick?
Yeah, now I can.
Okay, hold up. I think Nick cut out. Yeah, I'm not really high on Jaden McDaniels here. I would just much rather get to Nas Reed to answer that question. So yeah, probably no McDaniels for me.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's my internet or yours that just cut that out, but either way, um, let's see. We still got to talk about Sacramento. So the Kings added DeRozan, obviously scoring dependent, obviously going to take usage away from the likes of De'Aaron Fox and DeMontis Sabonis. I know personally, I'm not thrilled to get to a lot of DeRozan here at his price. I don't think it's the same role that he had with the Bulls. I mean, he really took over that team late in the season as Zach LaVine started to fade. This is a tough team for me to get to, if we're being honest, because I think the roles for Fox and Sabonis are going to be um, somewhat limited. Just a second. So yeah, I think we are choppy right now. Going over some choppy waters. Hopefully this repairs itself quickly. I think we're back. Can you hear me? Okay, we're reconnected. You still there, man?
Yeah, it sounded like someone was literally smashing a keyboard in my side of the audio.
I just had to change internet connections. Luckily, I have a backup. But yeah, I don't know what the hell's
Yeah.
going on, man. Everything looks good now. Again, thanks everyone for bearing
Okay.
with us. Hopefully, we get all these technical difficulties ironed out over the next week or so. It's a long season, you know. So if we can kind of fix these things now, I think we're in good shape. But yeah, I was just saying, I'm really not high on DeRozan here, and in the same breath, like it's gonna hurt Fox and Sabonis's production overall. I think we're gonna see the price on all three of these guys come down over the next few weeks. So personally, it's tough for me to get to anything really from Sacramento tonight. Maybe Monk off the bench where he's priced is my favorite option, but with DeRozan now in the mix, like replacing Harrison Barnes, he's going to take up a ton of usage. And DeRozan in Chicago was seeing really high usage, but that was as Levine started to fade late in the season. So right now, I think most of this team's overpriced. Where are you at on Sacramento?
Yeah, so Sacramento's definitely, interesting here. Starting out with the chalkiest play, Malik Monk, it's another guy around this 5K price point. We have so many of these guys. We got Westbrook, Caruso, Monk, Keegan Murray, PJ Washington. All these guys are, we're all guessing here. The matchup is okay here against Minnesota. I'll probably be around the field here, 25%. I don't think he's like a jam play, but he's, priced accordingly.
Yep.
And then Keegan Murray and Sabonis, I think. Keegan, I think Keegan's a really sharp play in tournaments at 11%. Another guy I want to be overweight too. And then Sabonis, I don't love the matchup here. I think I'd just rather play guys like Tatum or even 1B up top. So, yeah, I'll probably be lower on Sabonis here as a whole. Yeah, what do you think about these guys?
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat, man. I'm fine getting some Monk. Murray makes some sense just because power forward's really thin, but really, it's like I don't know. I just don't feel all that great about Sacramento right now. So we are through the team by team. Again, everyone, thank you so much for kind of bearing with us. Insane technical
Thank you
difficulties.
guys.
We had the audio issues to start, and then we're dealing with internet issues on my end. I had to switch connections. Somehow this has worked, and we've made it to this point. So we're about to give you guys kind of the build. But let's talk through some comments real quick. Last man in, Caruso, Pritchard, or Gafford. I think in catch games, it's probably Caruso. Tournaments, I don't know. I think I like Pritchard almost either way, but that one's tough. Where are you at, Caruso, Pritchard, or Gafford? I'm not even considering Gafford out of that group.
Ooh, so
Let's see what the
I
model
love
says.
Pritchard tonight.
Mhm.
I think I think I'm gonna go Pritchard on that. Caruso is gonna be your chalkier play. If you're playing tournaments, I would go Pritchard. If you're cash, I'd go Caruso. And then I'm not playing Catford, so yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yep, the model is favoring Pritchard there. So yeah, I kind of lean Pritchard either way. We're getting Horford or Lively. I would lean Horford even with the blowout risk. I mean, Lively is probably going to be the starting center, but him and Gafford are going to split minutes, so that's kind of a tough situation. Jose asking who is the Dallas starting center? I think it's going to be Lively with Gafford coming off the bench. Is that how you kind of perceive it as well? Dallas front court. We may have lost Jayhawk for a second. It looks like my connection's good this time though, so I guess I'll talk through it. But yeah, as we wait for Jayhawk to come back, I'll answer this one from Phil. Thoughts on 3K Walsh? That's a no for me personally. Even if he's on the floor, I don't know that he's doing all that much. I think there's enough other value that we don't necessarily need to get there. Um, so yeah, let's start with the dummy build, and hopefully we get Jayhawk back here in a second. Again, it's showing good connection for me. There he is. I think you're back now, man. I just can't hear you. Um, yeah, I mean, sorting by ownership, seeing what's popular. Um, just messaging Jayhawk. Anyway, again, thanks again for bearing with us, guys. So let's start with Tatum. I think he's one of my preferred pay up options tonight. We both mentioned Sochan, probably too cheap over on DK. Who else do we have? There's a few guys that are underpriced. Kyrie, I think, is kind of a borderline core play. Richard, again, someone I think we want to get to. But let's see. Let me check. Okay. Jayhawk can't hear me, so I'm gonna wrap things up. I mean, again, guys, we're gonna iron this stuff out the next few days. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, watch us slowly improve the technicalities over here. The info is always going to be gold, though, and definitely check out the links to get in the Discord as well. But yeah, this is kind of where I'm starting. Kyrie, Pritchard, Tatum, Sochan. I think where is he? Jalen Williams as well. Certainly too cheap over on DK. Um, then we're left with 5,800 per. A lot of folks bringing up Horford. I think he's fine to use his value. I love Nas Reed tonight, or not Clay Thompson. I don't know why I clicked him, but yeah, I really do like Nas. I think he's solid. So yeah, I mean, you're kind of left with 6,700 or 6 7K in this range if this is where you're landing. A lot of decent options. For me, it's Nas. Then we got 7,100 for a guard. What are we talking about here? I mean, Derek White, sure. Pretty solid builds, all things considered. Any last minute questions, guys? Ugh, be sure to get them in. Carrington is starting for the Wizards. So let me just say, he is probably one of my favorite value plays now. Once we refresh the model, all the more reason to sign up at Occupy. Really cheap access to get this data that we have here that's going to update in real time, next 10 minutes or so. You're going to see him pop as one of the best value plays on the slate because those minutes are going to come up. Um, So yeah, questions about Walsh, don't play him. I would just go to Carrington now. Even with Carrington popular, that should lower the ownership of someone like Pritchard. So more value on the slate than we thought. I did see someone ask if we should be playing multiple guys over 11K. Smaller slates like this, it's tougher to do that. But as this value starts to open up, like if you're playing a Champagne, playing Pritchard, playing Carrington, you could probably fit two of these more expensive guys. And Unicorn Love, kind of with the opposite question here. What do you think about not paying up for any of them? I think that's kind of the safer build, honestly. Like, if you're not going to roll the dice on any of these value plays, just playing guys in the mid range, you need them to do what they're supposed to do, though. So if you find you're still on risky guys like Dort, Caruso, etc., not paying up for something, I'd almost rather fit one of the Jokic, Doncic, Wemby, etc.'s into the lineup and use some of the cheaper guys because some of those guys in the 4K range are also super risky. So that could go either way. Um, any other questions? Yeah, we talked about McDaniels, Boomer Bust, definitely like him. Horford over Lively, don't like Walsh, like Carrington now that he's starting. Um, but yeah, I think that's it, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Again, technical difficulties have been obnoxious, but you guys have really been awesome sticking it through here with us. We got up to almost 200 views on this already, which is amazing to see. This will continue to improve, so bear with us. We are back here tomorrow to break down an even bigger slate. Take care, everyone. Have a great night.